For 5 years, I held my daughter and saw nothing but a miracle. Then, at her 5th birthday party, she laughed, and in that sound, I heard my father's ghost, and I knew, with a certainty that froze my blood, that my wife had invited a monster back into my life. The sound cut through the cheerful chaos of our backyard. It was a sharp, barking laugh, full of a chilling self-assurance that had no place in a 5-year-old. Around us, a dozen other kids were running through the sprinkler, their shrieks of joy a normal, happy soundtrack to a suburban Saturday. My wife, Laura, was a portrait of maternal perfection, placing a towering princess cake on the patio table, her smile as bright as the June sun. She was the architect of this perfect life, the one who had meticulously rebuilt me after a childhood I'd barely survived. And in the middle of it all was Lily, my daughter, our miracle, her blonde pigtails soaked, her face alight with glee as she laughed that terrible laugh again. My blood ran cold. It wasn't just a laugh. It was the precise way her head tilted back, the flicker of something sharp, almost cruel, in her brilliant blue eyes. It was the exact, mocking cadence of a man I hadn't laid eyes on in 15 years. George, the man who taught me that a father's love was a currency you earned through silence and obedience, and whose temper could turn our peeling Kent Row house into a war zone with the slam of a door. For years, Laura and I had navigated the sterile, hushed world of infertility. It was a quiet, creeping grief that settled over our marriage like a fine dust. The doctors, with their gentle, pitying looks, had made it clear the problem was me. Low count, poor motility. Defective was the word my own mind supplied. Each negative pregnancy test felt like a personal judgment, a confirmation of my own inadequacy. Laura was my rock through it all, holding me when I broke down, her unwavering belief in us the only thing that kept me from sinking completely. When our third and final round of IVF worked, it was as if the world, once muted and gray, had exploded into vibrant color. The moment the doctor confirmed the heartbeat, I broke down and wept, not with sadness, but with a profound, earth-shattering relief. I wasn't a dead end. I could be a father. I swore on everything I held holy that I would be the father he never was. And I was. From the moment I first held Lily, a tiny, screaming bundle wrapped in a pink hospital blanket, she became my religion. I learned to braid her hair. I built elaborate Lego castles. I sat through endless tea parties with her menagerie of stuffed animals. I poured every ounce of love, every bit of kindness I possessed, into her, hoping to build a fortress so high and so strong that the shadow of my own father could never touch her. But shadows are insidious things. As Lily grew from a toddler into a little girl, tiny, unsettling flickers began to appear. A stubborn set of her jaw when she was told no. The unnervingly direct way she'd stare down other kids at the playground to get the swing she wanted. Laura would laugh and call it a strong personality. "She gets that from you, Ben," she'd say, but it wasn't true. My strength was quiet, born of endurance. Lily's was confrontational, predatory. I'd brush the thoughts away, disgusted with myself. How could I project the sins of my abuser onto my own innocent child? She was just a kid. But the thought, once planted, had taken root. "You know, she's got your father's eyes," my mother had said hesitantly during a phone call a few months ago. My mother, a woman who had chosen to stay with a monster, lived in a state of perpetual, whispered apology for a life she never had the courage to change. "Don't say that, Mom," I'd snapped, my voice colder than I intended. "She looks like Laura. She has Laura's eyes." "No, honey," she'd said quietly. "Laura's eyes are like the sky in summer. His are like ice on a lake, just like Lily's. The conversation ended quickly after that, but the damage was done. Her words had given my shapeless fear a name. After that, I couldn't stop seeing it. And now, at her birthday party, the sound of that laugh had made it impossible to ignore. Mark, a dad from work whose kid was in Lily's preschool class, came over and clapped me on the back, holding a beer. Man, she's a spitfire, isn't she? Doesn't take crap from anyone. Must get it from her grandpa. He said it with a chuckle, a friendly observation. For me, the world tilted on its axis. What do you mean? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. You told me your old man was a tough son of a bitch, right? A real ballbuster, he said, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. She's got that same look, like she's already in charge. He wandered off to get another beer, leaving me standing frozen by the grill. Laura caught my eye from across the yard and blew me a kiss, her face radiant. She was happy. Our daughter was happy. This was the life we had fought for. So why did I feel like I was standing at my own funeral? That night, after the last of the guests had left and Lily was asleep upstairs, surrounded by a mountain of new toys, I sat in the darkened living room. The happy fifth birthday banner sagged on the wall, a mocking testament to a joy that now felt like a lie. Laura curled up beside me on the sofa, her warmth a familiar comfort that suddenly felt alien. What a perfect day, she sighed, resting her head on my shoulder. I think it was her best birthday ever. I couldn't respond. I just stared into the darkness, the echo of that laugh playing on a loop in my head. Ben, honey, what's wrong? She asked, her voice soft with concern. You've been quiet ever since the party started. It's Lily, I said, the words feeling like stones in my mouth. She has his eyes. She laughs like him. Laura stiffened, pulling away slightly. Oh, Ben, please don't do this. Not tonight. Don't let that man's ghost ruin this for us. He is not here. He has nothing to do with our daughter. But he does, I insisted, my voice rising. I see him in her, Laura. Other people see it, too. How is that possible? It's just genetics, she said, her tone shifting from concern to frustration. She's your daughter. Of course, there might be some family resemblance. You're letting your past poison the present. Lily is a miracle, our miracle. Don't let him take her from you, too. Her words should have been comforting, but they felt rehearsed. Too quick. Too defensive. The next few weeks were a private hell. I became a detective in my own home, scrutinizing my daughter for clues. Every gesture, every turn of phrase, every glint in her eye was evidence to be collected and analyzed. I loved her with a desperate, aching intensity, but my love was now intertwined with a creeping, nauseating fear. One evening, she wanted a second ice cream sandwich after dinner. When Laura told her no, Lily didn't cry or throw a tantrum. She just looked at her mother with a cold, level stare and said, "You'll change your mind." The calmness, the absolute certainty of her own power to manipulate, was so eerily familiar that I had to leave the room. The paranoia was eating me alive. I knew I was losing my mind. There was only one way to silence the ghosts for good. I found a peace of mind DNA paternity test online. The irony was suffocating. I ordered it to a P.O. box I opened in the next town over. When the kit arrived, I felt like a criminal. One afternoon when Laura was out running errands, I sat Lily down on the couch. "Hey, sweetie," I said, my heart pounding. Daddy needs to play a little science game with you. Can you open your mouth wide? She giggled as I swabbed the inside of her cheek. Then I did my own, my hands trembling so badly I almost dropped the swab. I sealed the samples in the biohazard bag, packaged the box, and drove 10 miles to mail it from a different post office, looking over my shoulder the entire time. The 2-week wait was agony. I was a stranger in my own life, an actor playing the part of a loving husband and father. My body was there, going through the motions of work and family life, but my mind was in a cold, dark place, waiting for a verdict that would either save me or condemn me. The email with the subject line, "Your DNA test results are available," arrived while I was at work. I locked myself in a bathroom stall, my hands shaking as I typed in the password. The page loaded. I scanned past the scientific jargon, my eyes searching for the one sentence that mattered. Probability of paternity 99.999%. The relief was so sudden, so absolute, that my legs gave out. I slumped against the stall door, laughing and crying at the same time. The relief was intoxicating. I was a paranoid fool, a broken man haunted by his past. But I was a father. She was my daughter, my miracle. I had let my trauma nearly destroy the most beautiful thing in my life. I went home that night and held Lily and Laura tighter than I ever had before, a silent apology for the man I had been for the last month. For the next 6 months, life was good again. Better than good. Freed from my dark suspicions, I saw only my daughter when I looked at Lily. The ghost was gone. We were a family, whole and happy. The truth came out on a rainy Saturday in November. We were tackling the attic, a long overdue project. Amidst dusty Christmas decorations and boxes of my old college textbooks, I found Laura's memory box, a cedar chest where she kept our history. She was downstairs making us hot chocolate, and I opened it, a nostalgic smile on my face. Inside were all our treasures, ticket stubs from our first concert, dried flowers from her wedding bouquet, a bundle of letters we'd written to each other. And underneath it all, a plain, white envelope I'd never seen before. Curiosity piqued. I opened it. Inside was a single, folded piece of paper, a receipt. My brow furrowed. It was from a fertility clinic, but not ours. This one was called the Pioneer Reproductive Center, and it was located 300 miles away, in the same dreary corner of the state where I grew up. Then I saw the date. It was from 6 years ago, just 2 weeks before the embryo transfer for our final, successful round of IVF. My heart began to pound a slow, heavy rhythm against my ribs. I scanned down to the service description, semen analysis and cryopreservation. And then the client name. It wasn't mine. It was George Miller, my father's name. The attic grew cold and silent. The sound of the rain, the hum of the house, my own heartbeat, it all faded into a deafening roar in my ears. The piece of paper felt like it was burning my skin. It didn't make sense. It couldn't be. And then, with a horrifying, sickening clarity, it did. The DNA test. It had said I was the father. And I was, biologically. Because George was my father, our DNA was almost identical. A standard paternity test would never be able to easily distinguish between a father and a paternal grandfather. Lily was my daughter, my biological flesh and blood. But I wasn't the one who had been in that sterile little room with the plastic cup. My father was. Which meant Laura she. The image that flashed in my mind was so vile, so monstrous, that I gagged, bile rising in my throat. She had done to him. She had taken our shared dream and had let my abuser, my personal devil, taint it. She hadn't just cheated on me. She had conspired with the source of all my pain to create my child. I don't remember the trip down the attic stairs. I felt disembodied, like I was watching a movie of someone else's life falling apart. Laura was in the kitchen, humming softly as she stirred marshmallows into 2 mugs of cocoa. She looked up at me and smiled, but her smile dissolved as she saw my face. Ben, my God, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I have, I said, my voice a dead, hollow rasp. I walked to the counter and laid the receipt down between us. Her eyes followed my hand. She saw the paper, and the color drained from her face. She didn't feign ignorance. She didn't try to lie. She simply crumpled, her whole body seeming to fold in on itself as a sob tore from her throat. The silence that followed was broken only by her ragged gasps. Why? The word was a shard of glass. Laura, for the love of God, just tell me why. For you, she cried, the words tumbling out in a desperate, incoherent rush. I did it for us, Ben. We were broken. Every month, another failure, another piece of you dying. You were disappearing, and I was losing you. I couldn't watch it anymore. I had to do something. So you went to him. My voice started as a whisper and ended as a roar that shook the room. You went to the one person on this earth you knew would utterly destroy me. You let him touch you. It wasn't like that. It wasn't about sex. She shrieked, tears streaming down her face. He was a donor, Ben. It was clinical. The doctors said the best chance of a biological match, of it looking like you, was with a close relative, a father or a brother. You don't have a brother. He was the only way. I swear, I thought if I could give you a child that was biologically yours, it would heal everything. It would finally make you whole. Her logic was so profoundly, terrifyingly twisted that I couldn't breathe. She saw my deepest wound, the source of all my trauma, and decided the cure was to inject it directly into the heart of our family. Heal me, I screamed, swiping the cocoa mugs off the counter. They shattered against the floor, brown liquid and ceramic shards spraying across the tile. You think this heals me? He is in her. He is in her laugh. He is in her eyes. He is in her goddamn DNA. You didn't save me, Laura. You gave him a piece of me, a piece of us, that he will own forever. Every time I look at my daughter, I will see my abuser's face. The sound of the smashing mugs and my shouting brought a small, terrified face to the kitchen doorway. It was Lily, clutching her stuffed elephant, her big blue eyes his eyes wide with fear. Daddy, she whimpered, her tiny voice cutting through my rage. Why are you yelling at Mommy? The sight of her, so small, so innocent, so utterly unaware of the monstrous truth she embodied, shattered what was left of me. The rage collapsed into a black hole of grief. I fell to my knees, the sobs racking my body so violently I couldn't speak. Laura scooped Lily up, murmuring reassurances as she carried our daughter, our beautiful, terrible lie back upstairs, leaving me broken on the kitchen floor. I left that night. I threw some clothes in a bag, the movements automatic, numb. Laura stood at the top of the stairs, pleading, begging me to stay, promising we could fix it. He's never going to meet her, Ben. I swear it, she sobbed. It will just be us. Nothing has to change. I stopped at the front door and looked back at her, the woman I had loved more than myself, the woman who had just become a stranger. Everything, I said, my voice devoid of all emotion, has already changed. I've been at this cheap motel on the highway for a week now. The air is thick with the smell of stale smoke and despair. My phone buzzes incessantly with texts and calls from Laura, her friends, my mother. But this morning, a call came from an unlisted number. I don't know why I answered. Maybe a part of me needed to hear it. Benjamin, the voice rasped, a gravelly sound I hadn't heard in 15 years but would recognize from my nightmares. Your wife called me, crying her eyes out. Tells me our little secret is out. I think it's high time you came to see your old man. It's certainly time I met my granddaughter. I hung up the phone and threw it against the wall. So here I sit, on the edge of a sagging mattress, staring at the wallpaper, which is peeling just like it did in that old house. On the nightstand is my wallet, flipped open to the picture of Lily at her birthday party. She's grinning, a smear of chocolate frosting on her cheek. She is my world. She is the only good, pure thing in my life. But how do I go back to that life? How can I raise a child who is a constant, living monument to my wife's unthinkable betrayal and my father's ultimate victory? He didn't just break me as a child, he has now found a way to haunt my entire future. Every milestone of hers will be tainted. Every time I look into her eyes, I'll be staring into his. I'm trapped. If I go back, I have to live with this truth, and I have to fight him for the rest of my life. If I leave, I abandon my daughter, the one person I swore I would always protect. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and give this video a like. We appreciate everyone and can't wait to bring more stories your way.